Hey, what's going on, RC drivers? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at the Tamiya Lotus Europa Special, and I think this thing is going to be a lot of fun for cruising around driveways and parking lots. Now, I'm not a big Lotus expert, but I do appreciate vehicles that made a huge impact on the automotive world, and that's what Tamiya does. They find these vehicles and recreate them in radio control form. So of course, Tamiya did their thing and they recreated the body in excellent detail and mounted it up on one of their M chassis. Before we dive into the details, this is a full build-up kit, so you're going to need tools and paint to get this thing going, along with all of the electronics. Let's take a closer look at this body. It doesn't look fantastic. It only has one slight mold line on the hood, but finishing it off is pretty easy. You just need a can of white paint, and we backed ours with silver, followed with some window tint just so you couldn't see inside. But most of your time is going to be put in decaling this thing. There are a lot of tiny pinstripes to apply to the body. The silver here on the side is a decal as well. You gotta form the headlight decals over the front of the body and the front bumper here. But once it's done, this thing looks great. Back here, the wing does need a little detailing as well. You gotta pick up some silver paint for that. But it just takes some time, and it's all part of the Tamiya modeling experience. I like those tiny mirrors on the side, and they have LED light buckets up front and in the rear, so if you want to go and add LED lights later, you could of course go and do that. Now let's take a closer look at this chassis. Now this Tamiya Mini chassis is the M-06M, which is the middle wheelbase chassis, 225mm, and it's the RR, which is rear wheel drive and rear mounted motor. The chassis is molded out of Tamiya plastics. As you can see, the battery goes down the center here. We've got a front upper brace. There's a small urethane foam bumper up front to help protect things in case you bump into a curb or something like that. But there's plenty of room here to go and mount your electronics. You can bolt up a standard servo. We have a little plate over here for your receiver and speed controller. And overall, it's just a well-designed, compact chassis that works really well.
I can just sit here and do figure eights all day.
The suspension is made up of really short, stubby suspension arms. There is adjustable tie rods up top, and the dampers are just friction units, but they do have different springs in the front than in the rear because there is a lot of weight with this rear motor. So the suspension is done up right for this chassis. The transmission in the rear is made up of all plastic gears, as we're used to seeing on Tamiya kits, and you're gonna have to pick up ball bearings if you want to use those. We have our standard Tamiya nylon bushings throughout this, a few bronze bushings as well. We do have a geared differential in the rear, but I do like that they go and give you the steel dog bones and steel axles, steel outdrives on this. So it is a pretty durable transmission. You could also go ahead and adjust the motor if you want to swap out pinion gears and maybe bump it up a few teeth to get a little bit more speed out of this car. Let's talk about the included electronics. Tamiya does give one of their standard 540 Mabuchi motors with this kit, and now they give you a Hobbywing 1060 speed controller, still with a Tamiya plug on it and the bullets, so you can get this car together fairly easily. Finding a battery with a Tamiya connector on it nowadays is a little hard, so you may want to go and swap this out to a T-style connector, but this speed controller works really well. There are these little plugs that you use to go and switch between LiPo and nickel metal hydride cutoff, and you could go and move one of the inserts as well, so you could have forward, brake, and reverse in the speed controller, forward, reverse, or forward and brake in case you're gonna go and race this thing. The steering system on this, pretty simple setup. We've got a twin crank steering under this front brace with a long tie rod back to the servo saver mounted on top of the servo, and then really short stubby tie rods to go out to the steering knuckles. I really like the tires on this car. They are the 60D radials up front and the 60D super grips in the rear, mounted up to these vintage style wheels, and I really like the way it handles with this setup right out of the box. We've got a lot of weight in the rear because of the rear motor, and these super grips really lay down the traction. Overall, this is a really fun modeling build. We do have a little bit of the Tamiya slop that we're used to in a lot of the cars, but everything fits together with ease. The instruction manual is fantastic. The parts are easy to find and cut off the parts trees and assemble onto this thing. And when you're done, it's just a cool car, whether you're gonna put it on the shelf or go out and drive it in a parking lot. And that's what we're gonna do right now. Let's head out and have some fun with this car.
All right, drivers, let's run the M-06 Lotus around for a little bit. We can talk about its performance. And this little car is quick right out of the box. Look at this thing bouncing around out there, but it's got some speed to it. Definitely got some killer braking in that speed controller. Look at that thing go. This is so cool. I actually really love how these friction shocks just bounce around. It just adds so much fun to the car. Look at that. Now on power, this thing pushes, which is really good since it's a rear motor car. You don't want this thing hooking or anything like that. And once you get off the throttle, it turns in nice and tight. Watch this. Nice and tight. There we go. Really cool. Just some really fun handling characteristics. But that bounce though, that bounce just like is a riot. Let's do a speed around here. Isn't that thing just so cool? I do love that body. I got to get into Lotuses more, I guess. That is just cool. Look at that bounce through the corner there. A little sketchy. I did roll it once. I got a little scratch up on the front fender, a little scuff in a rear decal, but whoa, spun out there. It's just fun. I'm going to have fun with this thing in my driveway. Certainly bring it to some more parking lots. And I could see why the M-06 class, or the M class I should say, is just a lot of fun at the TCS races. Definitely check for TCS races near you. They're a blast to attend. Really cool giveaways. What a fun car. All right, let's head back to the studio and wrap up the review.
So I think the last Tamiya M series car I drove was the Carmen Ghia, and this thing drives just like it. It's the same chassis, same rear motor setup, and I had a lot of fun with that car, and I had a blast with this car as well. It's just a neat driving experience overall. When you're on full throttle, this thing pushes like a bandit, but as soon as you lay off the throttle, it'll pull in a tight corner. The handling on it, it's a little on the wild side because of those friction shocks. This thing bounces around a lot. So the biggest enemy on the asphalt is any cracks in it. When I was going through some of the corners around those parking lot islands, there were some cracks there. Rolled it over once and got really close to rolling it over a number of other times. So just be aware of that. Yeah, this is a really cool body on this car, and I'm really upset I put a few little scratches on it. I guess it really just depends on how you're going to use it. If you're just going to go out and rail on parking lots, you just like the look of it, hey, go for it. But if you want to use this as a shelf queen as well, be aware of how hard you get into a corner while on the throttle. It's got some pretty good speed to it, as you saw from that 540 motor. You could even go up a few teeth if you want to on the pinion gear to make it a little bit quicker. But as is, these M series cars are just a fun drive. I really enjoyed it. It's a great car to build up as well. So let me know what you think about the Lotus Europa Special in the comments section below. Are you gonna pick one up to drive it, or are you gonna throw it on the shelf and just admire it? It'd be interesting to see what people are gonna do with it. If you haven't done so yet, please click that subscribe button and the notifications bell. I'll have links in the description below. Throw the video a like while you're there, and we'll see you back soon for some more RC driver videos.